I live in Connecticut, and it was actually our guild that started the Bottles of Hope program. So that's our big claim to fame. It was started by one of our members, Diane Gregoire, who was going through breast cancer. And people make the little bottles. Sometimes they'll have to buy them from a supply type place because a lot of times now the hospitals don't want to give you the empty bottles. And cover them with clay, put a message of hope inside, and they're given to cancer survivors. And we're really proud of the fact that it's gone all over the country, all over the world. It's such a great story. It's like it came out of the movies or something. I had a roommate in college that loved the Grateful Dead. And she was going to go and follow them for the summer after our first year of college. And she made hemp necklaces. And so she'd seen a bunch of the little beads, probably made by Marie Siegel for all you know, the little ones with mushrooms and suns and things like that. And so she wanted to try to make them. Well, there wasn't really any information. This was 1991, and there wasn't really any information on how to make them, so we tried to reverse engineer, and the results were horrible. She left on her trip. She only made it as far as somewhere in the middle of the country like Kansas, and then had to be flown home. She didn't make enough money. But by the time she got back for sophomore year, I was making all kinds of figurines and stuff. I was like, this is the greatest stuff on earth. So it just went from there. I did it as much as I possibly could. Well, teaching and sales of supplies. The sales of artwork has gone way down because I think a lot of people can justify taking a class and paying for that, because then they can make things that they can sell rather than buying a necklace or buying a pendant that, you know, it's nice to have it. They may buy something small for just a memory of having taken a class or gone to a retreat, and that's great. But I've gone away from making the higher end, more complicated things to making things that are a lot more accessible to a lot more people. The other big thing that I've done is change from the classic 2-day workshop to combining two one-day workshops that work together really well. So that if somebody can just come for a Saturday or a Sunday, they don't have to have been there for both days. And then I sell canes sometimes, and I never used to do that. I always thought it's just not, I don't want to sell a component of my work, but then it works. And some friends of mine will do like a whole cane and sell, like, you know, something about the size of my thumb of one cane at a time. I put a bunch of little ones together because then I think that people will look at it and say, oh, I'd have to make 30 different canes to have that many, you know. Having a teenager and aging parents, I have a lot of responsibilities with family. So when I have actually the time to make like a really nice kind of grand piece, it's never something that I'm going to sell. It's always something that I'm going to put into a show or competition or something. Bead Dreams is the big one that I've done several times. Bead Dreams, I've won 3 times, and for polymer, that's with the Bead and Button show. I'm the only person who won that 3 times, and it sounds like I'm bragging, but it's just the Bead and Button people have been very, very good to me. All of Kalmbach, they do bead and button and art jewelry, and a few other magazines. The editors get together and they choose the Excellence in Bead Artistry Awards, and that's across all media with glass and metal and wood and everybody. And they chose me for that award last year. It made me feel good for polymer because it's often not regarded as highly as glass or metal or the more traditional media. And it made me feel good that we got a win for polymer, and they actually told me that it was a direct result of the Racine Museum from Elise Winter's work with getting the permanent exhibit, because they are in Wisconsin and they're very close to Racine, that they'd heard so much buzz about polymer really coming of age and really coming into its own that they felt that it was a good time to give the big award to a polymer artist. And I was very, very honored and humbled that they gave it to me. We're like, sometimes in some months we're like two ships passing in the night. But that's why my assistant, Tommy Howell, he's like my best friend, he teaches, and he's a fantastic sculptor too. And he has been around for about 6 or 7 years. He follows around and he carries all my bags and drives and everything, because I can't do that because of a neck injury. And sometimes if my husband and I both have to be traveling, he'll actually stay home with me. I have a daughter that's 16. I needed an assistant, had an extra bedroom, and it all just worked out. We thought it might be a year or something. Now it's going on 7. So it just works. We're like a big bohemian family. I've always thought of us as kind of like, you make your family. You know, we've had people come and live with us for periods of time, cousins and just different people who've come to live with us throughout my life. My parents used to have people living with us all the time. It was never just our nuclear family. We always had extra people. And every time there's a new book or there's a new magazine or something, I bring it over there. My parents show it off to everybody like I'm some kind of rock star. So it's really good for them. You know, they have a whole curio cabinet of all things that I've made for them. The only time I actually saw my father cry, besides like, you know, in I only time I saw him cry in happiness or being touched was I made for his 60th birthday a statue of him, and it's included in the 500 polymer clay objects book that came out a while back from Lark. It's a picture of him throwing his sock ball to his little dog. He's sitting in a recliner. So it was 3 days after 9/11. And, you know, awful time and in our lives, and we live very close to New York, and I gave him the statue. He actually like had tears. And so it's just something that it allows me to, maybe I don't always have the ability to come up and tell people how much I care about them or how much I love them or how much I want to make them happy. But if I can make something that really touches them, that's why I do this.